Now, tensions are growing in KwaZulu Natal as looting of factories and public unrest continues. Over 72 people have been reported dead and 1,700 people have been arrested so far. Now, with the South African Defence Force being deployed, are we going to see a stop, actually, to these unrests? Well, eNCA senior reporter Dasen Thathiah is coming to us live from the sky to give us an update on what's been happening on the ground. He joins us now. Good morning to you, a colleague. Seeing those visuals, it looks like from my perspective. Perhaps you have a better look. Dasen, what do you see there? What's the latest?
Well, Tumelo, let's start with this. What you're seeing now is us flying over one of the residential areas in Durban. So this is in Durban North. And these are cars that are lined up. There are people that are out holding trolleys, trying to get into this supermarket. Tumelo, I must also ask you at this point if perhaps our technical colleagues can hear me. There's a bit of feedback in my ear, so I'm struggling to hear you.
Jason, definitely
but
hear you.
But back to these visuals that you're seeing below me. Look at these lines. This shows you the desperation that people are currently experiencing now. I mean, this shows you that people are struggling to get bread, struggling to get food, and they're looking for any available supermarkets, willing to get here at very early hours when they have messages to say that these supermarkets are opened. And this is an absolutely incredible sight. I've never seen anything like this.
Jason, as we continue to see those visuals in terms of the long queues, I mean, it goes back to the issue around desperation for fuel and food. Certain areas, even in Gauteng, where we are seeing a level of panic buying, people trying to hoard as much as they can because some supermarkets are closed, but some are also open but with less stock. So it seems to be what we are seeing on the ground in terms of visuals. Let's talk about the economy, broadly, the impact on the broad economy on this, because obviously the value chain now has been, disrupted.
No, definitely. And I think this is also an indication of that. Remember, people are getting to these supermarkets because many of the others have been trashed. Tumelo, if I can just intervene at this point one more time to ask our technical colleagues to deal with this feedback. It's a bit difficult to chat to you now. So I'm going to show you these visuals until this audio issue is corrected.
All right, Jason, as we try and get that audio corrected, let me just have, I don't know, banter around what we see there, that queue. I can see outside, what looks like either a mall or a supermarket. Obviously, this going back to the issue that we have been seeing being raised about, either food insecurity or panic buying. Fuel being one of the, issues and, problems that citizens around KZN and Gauteng anticipating would be a problem, trying to stack up on food as much as they can, but also food. Supermarkets not opening up, in their numbers, Gareth, there. But also, I mean, this was expected because we're having a conversation even online that, the entire value chain, the economic value chain has been now disrupted. Suppliers cannot get goods and stock, to various shops at this point. And this is expected.
It is. And we're waiting for Dasen Thathiah to come back to us. So, Dasen, if you can hear us, you climb in. The moment the audio is better on your side from the sky in Durban, what we're seeing there is not just this issue of some of the stores being looted. So there are still some stores. It's clearly a major shopping centre as we look at the coastal area in the background there. But because the warehouses, as you said, the supply chain, the factories that are stocking all the materials needed for these shopping centres, whether it's medication, food, groceries, basic necessities, those have been looted. Those have been ransacked. And that simply means that even though you might be able to get to a smaller shopping centre, because their stocks are so much lower because of their sizes, they've run out. Even if they weren't looted, they've run out of stock. So everyone now congregating very quickly towards the shopping centre where we're now flying away from. And I mean, I was trying to count the number of cars as Dasen and the team were flying over. I stopped at 300. They looped around a few times.
Yeah.
I kind of just picked up the counting, 300 cars outside the parking lot in the roads blocking off that area. Dasen, I don't know if you're perhaps back with us. I'm hoping the audio is better. If so, you pick up from where you and Toombs were talking about the economy in the area. Dasen Thathiah, if you can hear me, pick up from there.
Yes. Okay, we got to go to Columbia.
All right, we'll try and get the audio sorted out in just a moment, colleagues, but I think it's important to continue with this conversation. You know, Gareth, we were talking about how certain provinces are calm, just in terms of there isn't any looting, besides at least these two provinces, namely KwaZulu Natal and Gauteng. We can't deny the fact that they are somehow affected by the lack of stock, because besides the looting and the unrest we've witnessed, don't forget, most warehouses and factories have also been burned down. Malls have been burned down. I've just spoken to Jackie Mayman, who is saying that even pharmacies have been burned down and, or rather looted, and, you know, can't even function at this point. So, Dasen, just going back to you in terms of painting that picture for us and where we see the frustration clearly there from some of the residents in KwaZulu Natal, particularly in Durban.
Well, Tamela, that's exactly it. You know, these frustrations we're seeing popping up in the various communities around here. You've seen one of the frustrations, and that's around access to very basic things. You know, many people are commenting to us and saying to us that even under lockdown level 5, they'd never experienced anything like this. And for now, there are signs as you drive around certain areas saying no food, no fuel. When did you think that you would hear something like that in 2021? It's unprecedented. So now what we're doing is we're going to take you to some of the more damaged areas that are in the north of Durban. You'll remember that there were some of these factories, warehouses, big retailers like Macro and Game that have been burnt down. And on the way there, what you're seeing now is Phoenix. Now, this community is of particular interest because it's been all over social media. It's been mentioned by government officials around racial tensions that have been forming there. We were on the ground yesterday. The SANDF has been deployed to the area to intervene in maintaining law and order. Now, I'll tell you why. There was a lot of vigilantism that had come out there where the bodies were piling up. People had been killed. There are only estimates at this point indicating that at least 15 people may have been killed in that area as a result of those racial tensions and that looting that's taking place there. Right now, as we approach the Konubia precinct, I think you're getting a sense of two things. One, the damage that's been left behind after the looting and the arson attacks. And secondly, you'll see that it's a lot quieter since the last time we showed you this. Look at that. One of these buildings still smoldering over there. I think it looks quite ominous and quite surreal to fly over this, looking at the residential areas behind and looking at what used to be a hub where at least tens, if not hundreds of people were working. That speaks to the impact on the economy, that speaks to the jobs that have been lost. Think about that for a second and let it sink in. All of the people that used to work in these buildings no longer have a place to report to in the coming days or in the foreseeable future.
Dasen, as we're looking at those visuals, what comes to mind is, is multiple issues that are just affecting society at this point. We're seeing definitely, instances of public violence, the result of it, the looting, the burning of buildings, particularly some of the warehouses, supermarkets there. Also issues around, vigilantism and racial tensions that you have raised as well, but also what, government has also articulated that, it could be organized organized crime. It could be, gangs and, other criminals taking advantage of the situation. Let's talk about the vigilantism and the racial tension for a minute, because you did raise this as well. How is the deployment of the SANDF as well as the SAPS now in residential areas, not just around the supermarkets, not just around the malls as well as other buildings which are economic hubs, but also residential areas where perhaps residents may feel unsafe in their own homes?
There's been a lot of that. Look, we've been on the ground and we've been in the fortunate position to give you a perspective from both ends. The one is this holistic picture we're painting for you now, and the other is when we're not on this chopper, we're actually in these communities, we are at these points where these buildings are being looted, and we are trying to get as much information as possible. And just from doing that, I can give you the perspective from these communities and the sense of fear, the sense of anxiety that communities are feeling. They are seeing incidents of violence. They're hearing gunshots at night. There's gunfire in the distance. Tumelo, if I had to tell you that in just the past few days, us as crews on the ground, we've been shot at, we've been in car chases, we've been in situations where violence has flared up, we've been in places where fires have started, where they were not just a short while ago, places have been petrol bombed, all of that just in a few days. Now that's from a reporting crew that's moving from one community to another. What about those communities that are dealing with this every single day? We're getting desperate voice messages from people saying, we can hear gunshots, we don't know what to do. So what that's resulted in is communities then saying, let's get together, let us form these street patrols, these street committees, let's block off the area. Now, there are two sides to that coin. In democratic South Africa, you can't be necessarily blocking off access to an area. It's reminiscent of a very dark time in our country. But these residents tell us that they don't have any choice. They could have free access to their areas, and what it then becomes is a pathway, a route for looters to get through and get their goods out of these warehouses. You would have also seen that these warehouses are situated quite close to where residential areas are, which make them perfect exit points and exit routes for anyone leaving here. So as a result of that, they've set these up, and they've now, in some cases, managed to do it correctly, and in other cases, because tensions are so high, you're finding a lot of anger, which is resulting in that vigilantism, resulting in fires. If I had to tell you that there are very few streets that you can drive along in Durban, in Phoenix, for example, where we were yesterday, where you don't find a burnt-out car, I think you'd be very surprised, because 2 weeks ago, I certainly wouldn't have been saying that to you.
Yeah, Jason, but my question is, why do they feel the need to do that? I'm talking about the community members here who feel the responsibility to protect the communities. We posed the question on, our viewer question this morning as to whether or not residents see police and army visibility within their areas, if they're satisfied with it, if they think it's enough. Do these community residents feel the same? Do they feel that it's perhaps even unrealistic to think that the army, the SANDF or members of the SAPS will be everywhere all the time? Or are they just seeing complete non-visibility, hence they're taking measures into their own hands to try and protect their homes, their communities, their community businesses, their families, their children on their own, even though this goes against, obviously, democratic rights and democracy, whereby you're being stopped at a roadblock because community members perhaps feel unsafe and they feel that they want to just make sure that you're not there to loot or to cause further damage.
Bella, you've touched on that quite succinctly, and that's exactly the point, and that's why this has been formed. I mean, I hope that you'd be able to spot on these visuals of these residential areas some of these blockades that have been put up. The issue here is that every community has a sense, and rightfully so, of equal importance. They feel that they have a right to be protected as much as the next community, as the next business, and they want police to be everywhere. And then there was a sense of renewed hope when we heard of that first deployment of soldiers on the ground. They wanted soldiers to be in their communities as well. Now, unfortunately, we know that that is not possible. It is not possible for every street to have a police vehicle on it. It's not possible for every community to have a van of soldiers patrolling it. So that's where the sense of let's take back our own comes from. But there's a bigger problem here beyond the deployments, beyond the numbers. Fortunately, we have heard government officials saying that they're considering increasing the SANDF employments, and we can only hope that the situation will then stabilize as a result of that. But the other problem is that those that are deployed to protect us are now sometimes involved in the criminality itself. I'm not just speculating here. This is something that our Premier, Sihle Zikalala, has openly said. He says that they've received reports of police being involved in some of the looting. They've been involved, public servants, Tumelo, involved in this criminality. How then is the community expected to feel safe?
Yeah, of course, Dasen Thathiah, we'll have to leave it there, but also remembering that the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, as well as the Minister of Defence, that is Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, will be stationed in KwaZulu Natal, considered quite a hot spot, trying to restore stability there. We thank you for these views, and we'll be sure to come back to you as more developments occur.